When I first met Jade, her hair was longer than I am tall. I think that's true. It may still be because I'm shrinking at my age. But she was a freshman at Rowan Hall, St. Mark's, where I teach. And blew me away as a freshman just with her hunger for literature and her writing right away. The first poem that I remember reading from her, she wrote an ode to driftwood, and right away I recognized her facility with language, her understanding of what it makes to give us an image that is mesmerizing. And she just got better and better during the 4 years there. And then, remarkably, I suppose not remarkably, she went to NYU and has become an even better poet. I'm really excited to hear her read tonight. I've read some of her most recent work in the last month or so, and it's fantastic. She's an immense talent in so many different things. She's actually at NYU to play the piano, and I wish we had a piano in here so you could hear her play the piano, because it makes you weep. It's just amazing. But she does the same with language. So I'm really excited to have Jade Conlee.
Thank you, Joel, for that fantastic introduction. It's so wonderful for me to be here. It's really meaningful for me to be able to read Joel's series. He's been so important to me in my whole growing up years in so many ways, so thank you, Joel. The first poem I'm going to read is a travel poem. Over the past year, I was lucky enough to do a lot of traveling. And so a lot of these poems are really, as Joel said, about image and about place. So I'll go ahead. This poem is called Abstract Machines. Between sleep and the close-lit space of a poem, dimming in the mind like an ember in a tide pool, now brimming, now naked, a crumb trail of seashells, color spills above, an eyelash magnified, bowed like dawn, sculpting the edge of a cornfield. Scale is a beautiful misconception in which all trees are relative. A light in the dirt. I used to find bits of mica under thin oaks, hooked up as if by an IV cord to the same part miles underground. I'd peel layer from layer of rock flake that glinted like skin shed by a night snake, unsure what I wanted, like the swimmer kicking deep into the dawn lake, where the cold chafes against the warm, where currents and heavy fish slide by like tectonic plates. In Budapest, I was lonely, but not for the usual reasons. Clouds, thick river, crumbling monolithic architecture. There was a granite man. He held a little church in his arms and looked very sorry. The years came to sculpt his neck, him accepting like the blind beggar the harvest windfall of passers-by, their sorrows like acorns, hardships like sunflower seeds, the pollen of passing regrets. How lonely to know that one is born in one's own mind, to know the brittle trees, the shimmering flocks of winter birds, the beautiful strangers, all rain embers sculpted into temporary shapes. To be a ring, a bauble, a pretty thing thrown at 5 o'clock from the Soviet bridge, winter sun curling like fingers in love around green rivets the size of walnuts. To make the mind like this, the Danube below, a gray silk sheet hugging a just-made bed, you a light jewel, a bird's eye, singing swift through multitudes of air, galaxies of thought. My next poem it's also rooted in a place, but it came out of something that I saw Louise Gluck do in her opening poem in Inverno. In the poem, she constructs a whole narrative in the form of a question, and I was really fascinated by that, so I had to give it a try. So this is Illinois. Wasn't the sky all combed with snow when you were born in this house? Didn't Grandma shove her pills behind the armchair and say, "This is my favorite day of the year"? And didn't you kill a chicken in the vegetable patch? Or was that Grandpa? And isn't the yard different now? Little tangled plants choking the strawberries. Didn't Uncle Tom have his walnut cane that year, and his forehead that sweat like cheese? Didn't you feign concern when he threw up in the hall bathroom? And didn't you go next? Didn't it start to snow when you took the lid off the Tupperware? I remember the kitchen sink after they'd all been in the hospital for a month, crumbs drifting in the dishwater like tiny flowers. Didn't you know Uncle Tom would die that winter so you'd be alone in the house with the dog and the Vicodin? Didn't the dog die the next Thanksgiving and the sadness set you running into the November spit flakes, sun fading, front door agape? This next poem is a little lighter. It's from when I went to Paris, and I went to the Pompidou, which is the modern art museum there. And it's this very modern building with all sort of this glass encased escalator that goes up 6 flights. And when you're at the top of it, it's taller than any other building in Paris. So you can see the entire city. It's really magical. So this poem is called A Postcard from the Pompidou. There is a two-dimensionality, a yellowing to French clouds, somehow reminiscent of the flat world. 16th century architectural sketches, clouds scrolled in the margins, divine geometry of the Enlightenment. Man's infatuation with the sun, the desire to make light, candelabras, lanterns, ink shadows pooled on parchment. From the roof of the Pompidou, under the frescoed noon of the Sun King, I see the Paris of Rousseau, Chopin, Apollinaire. Gables unfold, an infinite fan, chimneys like broken rows of terracotta teeth, wrought flowers pour from braided windows, all with an aesthetic uniformity. I should put a gilt frame around it and say for a moment that I understood another age that dissolves upon the cobblestones where we walk between each other, feet married to the hot tar, to some reverse sedimentation of time. Modernity wingless beneath centuries, the blunt elemental sun. With protractor and astrolabe, we constellate into our past, a medieval night wet with dark, with hedges and gables, gargoyles and harlequins. This morning, my coffee burnt. I watched through the Tuileries as if through perpetual sunset. We have never left the age of enlightenment. We have never left an age. This poem is my hurricane poem. I live in Lower Manhattan, and so at the beginning of November, all of a sudden we lost power, we lost water and heat and gas and everything. And it was one of the most bizarre weeks of my life because the day before, I had barely even heard there was going to be a hurricane. I had a Halloween party, things, it was very normal. And then the next day it was just everything stopped. And so this poem is sort of about that experience and this sort of weird logic that is at work in our lives. Shatter pattern. When everything tears apart, dust trickling down from the brown clouds, what is still left? Who can hold their breath the longest? The metal bleachers outside the deli, which yesterday were covered in flowers, have become a play place for children in pink coats or monkey suits. A child pulls his hood over his face. Mother mutters into a payphone. He stops as if to say, "Notice me, please. I'm hiding right in front of you." And 10th Street has this golden skin of leaves, piles of sticks and trash so regularly placed as if the whole city was somehow a glue and cardboard shoebox diorama. And the birds in their circles, their sudden logic, shatter pattern, a fluke of the mind. Gray sky, like a single bell stretching through silence. Today, nobody has a purpose to their walking but to breathe this air sharp as bird bones, to carry around their memories and paint surreal tableau in the corners of people's eyes. I would never grab a stranger, though I watch you all like food, desperate to share my brain, to know one of yours. Nightfall was quick as a switch in the electric world, but now on the streets black as lake bottom, we're all shadows, rising into a stream of light. We exist for just a stride, loud gasp into your flash beam, then cease like monsters of the mind, voice clips, memories. This the aquatic nature of the mind. My grandparents' dog, Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas mornings, all bubbles rising in the murk to burst into the present. Pain, we were children together. I built the years into a wall, but I cannot damn you as I cannot love you. I picture you as a blue-coated girl, as you put on your turtle mask, as you kick leaves into mulched gutters. I feel my face take on a trace of your smile. I walk past you. I am a ghost to you now. Okay, this next poem concerns a sort of bizarre and unseemly event that happened to me when I was in Paris. It was a weird event that I witnessed for maybe 2 seconds from a distance of about 30 feet, and it will remain mysterious, but I decided to write a poem about it because I thought that although it was unseemly, it was full of some kind of symbolism. So, and interestingly, now this poem, because it's on the internet, and now 2 different composer friends of mine are setting it to music, so I guess there's something musical about it. Okay, this is Necromancy. You feel terribly alive. Blood crashes in your arms. Sun shakes across your shoulders. You're praying only because it's you praying. To actually move the planets as if they were hung from strings. Ravens rise like a net from the trees as plums slump into dirt. Their ghosts flutter on the bough among similar leaves. You envision yourself surrounded by angels, tawdry nativity scene, hunched among crumbling tombs. You imagine dipping strawberries in a pool of your semen. They come out smelling like your 12th birthday, and the girl in the red dress who kissed you bows like seeds in her hair. You desire air that glows like glass down into your ribs, and you too dead to care. The girls who bicycle aimlessly around the park look so pretty in their short skirts. Their scarves fly behind them in memoriam. Okay, the next poem I'm going to read is a poem I wrote last fall. I was taking a class with Anne Carson at the time, so I was reading a lot of Greek tragedies and Greek fragments, and the class was a performance art class. So this poem is called Ash Dance Fragments, and so it's a series of fragments. I was curious about what makes a fragment fragmentary, and so there's 7 fragments, and I actually cut them up and posted them all around the city in different places. And it was fun to sort of see people gathering and reading them as soon as I walked away, but they were all gone the next day because New York just cleans itself up that fast. So, so this is Ash Dance Fragments. 1. Fingers crumble around the leash of a dog. Behind chain link, sky burns through the rainbow. No stop till ash shear, just past 2nd Ave. It pools like fabric on the concrete. And instead of the usual contest of finger pads on metal teeth lining the flower boxes, today hands wander through dirt-damp roots, imagined cool of a petal-papered face, coupling with each hot inhale, a ritualized rolling over under covers towards an extinguishing glory. Troy, famously inflammable, they say. The Trojans burned down their city. They liked the smell of smoke. 2. Just as the Trojans smelled smoke on their hands long after the sack was forgotten, so my fingers are smoke-soaked, and so are yours. Nothing happens so quickly as flame. Just now, a man across the park disappeared, his chess set left hovering among dispassionate trees. 3. Nothing so slow as skin to take in the apple it owns. 4. We were at the Hudson down by Prince Street in September, the lamps staring down. I was in heels. Smoke pales and turns into light, contiguous, a thread buried in our bodies reaching up. What were we fighting about? Toward the street lamps, silent circles, halogen moons, strung like a necklace all down West Side Highway. 5. And Paris paled too when he uttered the word Calistay, meaning fairest. As if all the smoke that rose an accidental prayer, a stream from your lips such as breath, your embryonic thoughts. Calistay as in fairest of 5 whippets, or fairest assessment of my unrefined passion for the human mouth. 5b, Paris was reading an apple, which is, of course, neither flammable nor ephemeral, and so of no interest to us at this time. 6, your arm flashing for your wine glass through the cafe grate we considered eloping. Afternoon passes before us like a train, end visible yet perfectly still, but decided you are too much like an apple and I'm too much like a cigarette. 7, we are undone. We have our breath, which is our doing. This poem I wrote when I was visiting a poet friend of mine up at Wellesley, which is outside of Boston. They have the most beautiful grounds. They have a gigantic lake, and it's actually like 10 minutes away from Walden Pond. So when I visited, it was fall, and we took this long walk around the lake, and I just felt the whole time that I was in this great tradition of the American poets. And so I wrote this poem as soon as I left, and there's actually a little frost quote in there. The path round Lake Waban. Crow falls in a gloom swoop over the sky pool. Remarkable, this calm eye sings all it beholds, that the world is something we can swim in. My boots' meditative weight sinks into year layers of mulch. Past and process ripple and dissolve behind me and below. 3 crows make a circle, thick arcs through the bell tower. Their shadows pass silently over the grass. According to Sioux legend, Crow's shadow irked him. He could hear the sloughing off, the peeling of self from self, as if each day the ground drank up his past. And so he pecked at his brain shade until it came to life and ate him. This is how Crow became a shapeshifter, unhinged from time. We won't call it magic, more a confluence of states. Crow is a lake, a hole filled with itself. The light turns noble in the pines, and I feel I am ghosting a hero through New England's monolithic knees. Crows float over the wood, wings held up like invoking arms as the lake clouds, wind skin must to a shimmer. There is something consummate to autumn paths. All the scene's players gain an indecipherable weight, cast into some weird augury. Even the thickest swells are silent. Round the bend, the swan, lake heart nestled in silver, beats his neck on his breast. The sun rakes through its ancient charade, and we could be but brush, but shadows. And I wanted to end with a short poem that I wrote when I was in Joel's class. And it came out of one of his fabulous multi-step prompts. I think it involved everybody writing down 2 adjectives and then mixing them up, and you get someone else's adjectives, and then you had to Google image them and somehow turn them into nouns, and then write a poem about that. So this is Bronze Perceived. Pierced by glass-feathered eyes of feather molds, broken beak will never break flesh, or imaginary bronze feathers brush over imitation muscles, ripple, ringing air, air trapped inside clay cranium, cracked clay or brittle bone, pigeon, always evocative of pigeon, pinned beneath fluorescent museum glass boxes containing specimens. Affixed to miniature ceiling filaments spark, lissom as a peacock fan of feathers, sudden light often arrests perception, sifting through contours of feminine hair, filaments slightly burnt.